Did you know that the Times Square ball drop is the most popular New Year's celebration in the entire world?
That's right. After all the ways we could have rung in the new year, watching a giant glowing ball fall slowly from the sky became the ultimate symbol of hell yeah.
Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on! Ah!
Over 1 million people squeeze into Times Square every year like sardines, while another billion watch at home on TV. And to put that into perspective, the most watched Super Bowl of all time has gotten about 100 million viewers. So we can all agree it's probably a little bit tacky,
but I'm kind of a big deal.
and the only thing that really even comes close is the FIFA World Cup, which is the most popular event for the world's most popular sport. But New Year's Eve rocks. We all get to pretend for about 10 seconds that we're gonna change overnight. This is our year. I'm gonna quit drinking. I'm gonna start working out. I'm gonna stop procrastinating. And most importantly, I'm gonna quit leaving the toilet seat up. Yeah, sure, bud. I'm sure you are. And nobody looks at the new year with a pessimistic view unless you're the Debbie Downer of the group. But screw them. New Year's Eve is all about a new beginning. And what better way to bring in those incredibly unrealistic goals by doing the worst thing possible? If you're gonna quit drinking, you might as well get hammered one last time, right? That's the real way to kick off the new year. You get so trashed, you spend the entire first day of the year Googling to figure out if you have alcohol poison. This is all while waiting for your DoorDash driver to arrive with a Pedialyte and that bacon, egg, and cheese that you need so badly.
I need it!
And trust me, the Bloody Mary will not help. That is, unless you make an extra Bloody Mary for me. And what is that symbol that comes to mind of a fresh start? The Times Square ball drop. It's a loud, glittery, slightly obnoxious, incredibly American way of saying, out with the old, in with the new. So, let's learn about it. Hey guys, this is Jared from History Bits, the channel that drops history facts instead of big balls. And today, we're gonna be talking about the biggest of balls. Pause. I'm just talking about the Times Square New Year's ball. Get your head out of the gutter. That big apple ball. The one that drops every year and somehow makes millions of people forget about last year's poor choices. This thing has a killer history, and it's delivered us all the incredible celebration we know today. For instance, did you know it takes 6 months to build that thing? Pretty crazy, huh? It's built in a secret location for 6 months straight. What, are they like changing that secret location, or is it in the same spot every year? My God, I have so many questions about this. So let's rewind. We have to start at the beginning because the history of this giant disco ball is much more entertaining than the other YouTube suggestions you got waiting. Every year, as we finally limp to that dramatic finish line at the end of December, millions of people across the globe turn their eyes towards New York City's Times Square, eagerly waiting for one thing: the legendary New Year's Eve ball drop. For over a century, this glittering spectacle has been the shining star of global New Year's celebrations. And it might be a little corny, but we all tune in, and even if we're pre-gaming, we have that party on in the background. The story of the Times Square ball drop takes us all the way back to the early 20th century. Though New Year's celebrations in Times Square actually go back even further. Originally Longacre Square, this part of town was turned into a cultural hotspot in the early 1900s. Then, in 1904, the New York Times moved to Longacre Square in their shiny new building. To mark the occasion, they threw a firework extravaganza that lit up all of NYC. And this officially sparked the idea of ringing in the new year in Times Square, a tradition that would soon explode into the celebration of the year. Enter the Ball of Destiny. Fast forward to 1907, and the New Year's Eve bash in Times Square was already becoming a major part of NYC's culture. But the building's owner, Adolph Ochs, wasn't just content with fireworks and confetti. He had a bigger vision. He wanted to take the party to the next fucking level. So, he introduced the idea of a giant illuminated ball that would descend from the top of the building at midnight to announce the arrival of the new year. Genius. The ball itself was designed by engineer Walter Palmer. And let me tell you, this thing wasn't your average beach ball. This was a 5-foot diameter, 700-pound iron and wood monstrosity, decorated with a whole 100 light bulbs. And when that massive orb was lowered at midnight on December 31st, 1907, everyone lost their minds. The crowds went apeshit. You're crying. People kissed.
No, don't do that.
Babies were definitely conceived that night, and just like that, the Times Square ball drop was born. Over time, the ball drop grew into a global phenomenon, and the event became the ultimate way to welcome in the new year. And then the countdown became a thing. You know the drill. It's the part where everyone gets their New Year's Eve anxiety in full gear as the clock ticks down. The annoying guy at the party that screams, 10, 9, 8, 7. We all just hold our breath like it's Y2K all over again. And when that ball finally touches down, it's a full-blown celebration. Confetti everywhere. Strangers hugging each other. People are even playing tonsil hockey after sucking down one too many Zimas. You have last-minute New Year's resolutions that will be forgotten overnight. But for that one moment, it's the official beginning of the new year. And the world collectively erupts with joy, excitement, and toasts of champagne. It's pretty awesome. And so is the ball itself. But the Times Square ball has undergone a crazy amount of transformations since its origins in 1907, evolving from a basic iron and wood sphere to the dazzling, high-tech light show we can't stop staring at every New Year's Eve. From simple to sleek to shock and awe status, this ball just keeps getting more and more extra every decade. In the 1920s, the original 700-pound iron ball was swapped for a slimmer, sleeker model. And it was made of copper, because you gotta make something shiny and decadent in the 1920s. And it lit up with 1,000 light bulbs. And by this time, the ball was starting to embrace a slightly more modern aesthetic. Fast forward to the 1950s when neon lights took over New York City, the Times Square ball got a makeover too, glowing with neon lights that matched the city's flashing, buzzing vibe. In 1981, the ball went all out, using aluminum in 9,000 light bulbs. Now it could change colors and change patterns. You could practically see this ball transforming in real time. Next, we need to fast forward to 2007. That's when this famous ball celebrated 100 years and also received a major facelift. It was like the ball went from a middle-age crisis to a full-on millennial. The ball was now made with Waterford crystal panels, which, by the way, made it look like something you'd find in a palace, not in Times Square. And it got 32,000 LEDs. With those LEDs, the ball could now create 16 million color combinations. And here we are today, with the Times Square ball at peak performance. Let's talk size. This thing is a 12-foot wide, 11,875-pound beast of a ball. It's basically the size of those UFOs that have been hovering above New Jersey that are freaking everybody out. But the government's telling us, just ignore it, don't worry, it's not a big deal. I mean, look at it. It looks like the world's biggest, fanciest piñata. Ooh, yeah. We've all thought about it. The way I've been swinging it the last few years, I probably missed, but I've thought about it. And those lighting features? It's a symphony of LEDs lighting up with patterns that could make even Tomorrowland look like a flashlight. The ball dances through 16 million color combinations, giving us a dazzling light show that's so mesmerizing, it's almost like the ball is trying to hypnotize us into forgetting the fact that we chose to stand in Times Square, shitting in our adult diapers, shoulder to shoulder, with other strangers in the freezing cold. And its movement, it's a slow motion superstar. The ball is raised to the top of one Times Square at 6 p.m., and that's where it stays. At 11:59 p.m., it descends at a glacial speed of 1 foot per second, creating the most suspenseful 60 seconds of your entire year. The ball reaches the bottom at midnight, and BAM! The new year has officially arrived. I mean, the Times Square ball has gone through so many transformations in its history that it's basically like the Jonah Hill of New Year's celebrations. From its humble iron beginnings to today's dazzling technological masterpiece, it's no longer just a ball. Today, that bougie ball is an intersection of technology, art, and tradition, captivating millions of viewers around the world as it ushers in a brand new year. Let's face it, the ball's basically the star of the show, and the rest of us are just hanging out for the ride and the drinks. Especially Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen. No matter what, you can never convince me those two aren't gonna end up getting married at some point. But with something that started as an NYC tradition, it's transformed into a global spectacle. The Times Square ball drop, which began as a modest event in the early 20th century, has now become a New Year's Eve extravaganza so big, it makes even the most extravagant celebrations look like that birthday party I threw in 7th grade that nobody came to. These days, it's not just about a shiny ball falling from the sky, though.
It's about celebrity appearances, musical performances, and an electric atmosphere that can only be rivaled by a live concert at the world's most crowded intersection.
Times Square has become synonymous with hope, fresh starts, and the collective excitement of thousands of people gathered in one place, desperately trying to remember whether they're supposed to kiss someone or just awkwardly hug the nearest stranger. Times Square has also become synonymous with authentic New York-style pizza. The Times Square ball drop is one of the most iconic and enduring New Year's Eve traditions in the entire world, but it hasn't always gone off without a hitch. In fact, there have been a few notable moments in US history when the ball either didn't drop or didn't drop as expected. Turns out, just because you have giant balls doesn't mean you can escape global chaos. For example, during World War I, there was a sense of national strictness. Big flashy celebrations were considered a little iffy, while our boys were over in Europe fighting in the trenches. In 1917, the US government basically told everybody, we need to skip the big party and save some resources for the troops. So, the Times Square ball drop was canceled, likely because the only thing anyone was celebrating was the fact that they could still get bread. By 1919, the war was over. People were officially done rationing butter, and the ball drop was back. Then came World War II, stuff got a little finicky again. In 1942 and 1943, the ball drop was skipped due to wartime blackouts. The government didn't want enemy planes flying over New York City and seeing a giant glowing ball that screamed, "Drop bombs here!" So they canceled the drop. I can't blame them for that. That seems like the pretty responsible thing to do. The city was plunged into darkness, and instead of the usual confetti showers, everyone was like, all right, I guess we'll just sit here in the dark and, I don't know, tell stories or something. I don't know. This is depressing. Luckily, the ball drop made its grand return in 1944, after the blackouts were lifted and people could once again see the sparkle of Times Square. Then, of course, there was 2020, the year when the world collectively agreed that large crowds were definitely not the move. COVID-19 shut everything down, and the Times Square ball drop, like many other public events, was canceled. But don't worry, the ball still dropped at midnight, just without the usual crowd of drunk people. Instead, the event was broadcast live. Virtual performances filled the gaps, and the whole thing became a reminder that we'd all be ringing in the new year together, just not actually together. In 2021, the ball drop came back, but with some serious pandemic-related adjustments. They limited the crowd size to about as many people as you could fit in a fifth-floor Chinatown walk-up, and many strict health protocols were enforced. It was a ball drop for introverts. While the Times Square ball drop might be the iconic New Year's Eve event, it's not the only show in town. Around the world, the cities host equally spectacular, and sometimes way more chill celebrations. Each has its own vibe, tradition, but still unforgettable moments. Take Sydney, for example.
Thanks to its spot in the Southern Hemisphere, Sydney's one of the first major cities to ring in the new year. They're basically the early bird, grind don't stop, team no sleep of global celebrations.
The city's famous New Year's Eve fireworks explode over the Sydney Harbour Bridge and Opera House. Over 1 million people gather on the harbor each year to watch the fireworks. It's so big, it's broadcast worldwide, also ensuring that nobody has to sit on a plane for 16 hours to feel involved. Next stop, my personal favorite, Rio de Janeiro. If you ever wanted to bring your beach body and your party spirit to one event, Rio's New Year's Eve is the one for you. Millions of people crowd into Copacabana Beach for one of the world's biggest and most vibrant parties. And everybody wears white, because who doesn't like a good old-fashioned white party? Rio's New Year's vibe is beachy, boozy, and really into fireworks. Basically a giant glittery beach rave. Then there's London. Fireworks are launched from the London Eye and boats on the Thames, lighting up landmarks like Big Ben and the House of Parliament. It's basically a visual representation of, let's celebrate, but make sure we celebrate in a very dignified manner. In Paris, things are a little bit more romantic. On the Champs-Élysées, thousands gather to watch a dazzling light show on the Arc de Triomphe.
Arc de Triomphe.
So I'm so sorry about the French, guys. I really butchered that. I'm sorry.
The fireworks are there, but it's mostly about the ambiance. The music, the lights, and the general Parisian elegance. No ball drop here, but honestly, who needs that when you're in Paris? I mean, you can just sit there on a beautiful street, sipping champagne, pretending you're in your own movie. So whether you're partying with scantily clad Brazilian bombshells, freezing your face off in Times Square, or just trying to look sophisticated while eating a croissant in Paris, New Year's Eve is about celebrating that fresh start ahead. And if you're not feeling the official party, there's always the option to stay home in your pajamas and watch it on TV. Well, yeah. The New Year's Eve ball drop has come to symbolize so much more than just the turning of a page on the calendar. It's like the world's biggest reset button, pressed by millions of people in unison so that we can all start over. As the ball descends, people around the world experience the magic of optimism. That brief, blissful time when we think we can change our lives just by the changing of a number.
You're old. Your brain don't work. Your body don't work. You can't change your ethic.
It's also the one time of the year where seeing a car-sized object fall from the sky isn't disaster. It's actually inspiring, but it's also a testament to New York City's resilience. Over the years, the city has faced hurricanes, blizzards, and an endless supply of tourists blocking the sidewalks. But nothing can stop that ball from dropping. Okay, disease and war outbreaks, but I mean, let's give it a little grace. It's like the city's way of saying, yeah, we've been through some shit, but we still throw the biggest parties on the planet. And we're gonna do it with style. With every descent of that ball, we're reminded of the passage of time, the joy of pretending we've got our lives together, and the optimism that keeps us thinking, this year is gonna be different. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.